A freezing December night. And along the banks of Indianapolis's White River, a horrifying scene. There, on a walking path, the body of a woman.
For my niece to lay there on that ground like that, somebody killed my niece like that. That's horrible to me.
She was face down on blood-stained concrete as two German shepherds fiercely guard her body.
They were circling the body and, again, being aggressive towards anyone who were approaching.
It's not long before medics and cops swarm the scene.
Well, unfortunately, we were met by the two dogs described to us as being very vicious and protective of her person. They were initially unable to approach the victim to check for signs of life.
There were none, and police soon learn the victim is 52-year-old Sherese Bingham. What they don't know is who would want her dead.
It's almost like a Sherlock Holmes tale, just a mystery that just dropped out of thin air.
Investigative reporter Russ McQuaid followed the unsolved, cold-blooded murder of Sherese Bingham for years. A case that has eluded cops and kept the community on edge.
How did she die?
She died of a gunshot wound to the chest, and it was from a bullet from her own weapon.
That weapon was found lying next to her along with her cell phone. Cops believe she tried to make a phone call before she died.
Sherese kept a weapon, a handgun for her own protection. She always kept it in a pouch. The pouch was discovered at home, and the gun was discovered by her side.
But a gun and fierce dogs didn't protect this devoted churchgoer on the very night she needed it the most. Cops quickly rule out suicide and robbery, her adoring family stunned that someone had point-blank murdered Sherese, a married career woman who held several degrees.
And she had a way about her that when she walked in a room, she made people turn their heads.
My baby sister, Sherese, we called her Reese. She always wanted to help somebody. She took care of my mother when she was sick. She helped my dad out, helped my brother out.
Although Sherese had no children, her dogs were like her babies. And even at a young age, she had an uncanny ability to train German shepherds.
She was, I'm going to say about 9 or 10. She had a dog named Cruiser, beautiful German shepherd. That dog could do just everything with her.
In high school, Sherese was a popular student athlete. In her late 20s, she met a man named Eugene. The couple had been married for 28 years. It all seemed so normal, for the most part.
Do you remember when you first met Eugene?
He was just too quiet. I don't remember having a whole full sentence or conversation with him.
I know he was a demanding person, kind of cocky-act, you know, head always up in the air.
The family says if things were amiss in the couple's marriage, she kept it to herself. Then, they say, after almost 3 decades together, the couple drifted apart and seemed to live separate lives.
After they had been married for years, she would say he had his own room downstairs, and that's where he would be. And she would be upstairs running the house, her dogs, going to work, whatever, but he would always be in that room. Isn't that strange?
On the night of her murder, with Eugene down in the basement, Sherese took the dogs on a walk to one of her favorite spots.
It is a little bit desolate in the fact that you won't see a lot of other people.
The dog was very protective of her. They was like guard dogs, and nobody couldn't get close to her. And that's what everybody is puzzled about right now. Who got that close to her to murder her with her own gun?
Were Sherese's dogs comfortable around Eugene?
Yes, they was. They was very comfortable with her husband. He took them walking, he fed them, he took care of them for all them years.
If only dogs could talk. This family soon began to wonder what they might reveal. Shortly after the shooting, Keith grew disturbed that Eugene didn't call him immediately, even waiting till the next morning to reach out.
So he just couldn't get a hold of you, the evening she was murdered, so he tried just the next day.
Just tried the next day. If you can't get me, it was that important, come and knock on my door. Why you let them hours pass? That was puzzling to me.
And that's not all. At Sherese's funeral, family members say they noticed Eugene's behavior was odd.
He talked more than ever, and we all kept looking at him because he was talking.
So it was strange.
Yeah. I ain't even never heard his voice, I don't think, until then. It was weird.
But weird certainly couldn't prove murder. And there were other unexplainable possibilities also. Looking back, Deborah recalls an eerie conversation she had with her niece shortly before her murder.
And I'll never forget this, is that she kept talking about, do you think I'm paranoid because I feel like I'm being followed?
She thought she was being followed.
Yeah. She said it's a dark blue blazer that keeps everywhere I go. So she kept all these different locations to herself and him.
In another disturbing phone call.
The day that she got killed, and she said, I just want you to know I love you. That was maybe about 3 hours before she died.
Was Sherese living in fear, and did she have a premonition of her own death?
She knew something. She did. Maybe she wasn't sure, but she knew. That's what hurts. And I can never get through a conversation if I tell that part without crying, because I can still hear her say that.
Despite the mysterious and unanswered signs, soon after her murder, Sherese's family had a razor-sharp intuition.
When did you first start to suspect that Eugene may have been involved?
From the beginning.
That was your gut.
That was straight up from the beginning. Never thought of nothing else, because them dogs will not let you near her, okay?
Was the killer among them?
We always said the answer is in the dogs.
Sherese Bingham is found shot dead, police say, with her own gun. She was walking her dogs on a winter night on a popular path in Indianapolis. Her beloved German Shepherd survived and guarded her body. Now, did those dogs hold any clues?
Those dogs are devoted to her, and for somebody to get close enough to her to shoot her, if she didn't shoot herself, they would have to know those dogs would have to know that person.
Eugene Bingham, Sherese's husband of 28 years, the man family members immediately suspected was somehow involved.
There's only one other person those dogs know, and that's Eugene.
Family members say he's a quiet guy who keeps to himself, locked away in his basement lair. But one day, Sherese made a devastating discovery.
That was one thing she said that sticks. I've been sleeping with the enemy. I don't even know this man.
Her husband was leading a double life, carrying on a 14-year affair with another woman.
What was your reaction?
My reaction was, you did my sister like that for all of them years. She wanted to play 2 roles, 2 families, 2 beds, 2 households.
After finding out about the affair, Sherese's family says she made a bold statement. She sold her wedding ring.
She sold that to a pawn shop.
She didn't want to wear it no more. She was over it. Her wedding ring wasn't on her in the casket.
Sherese had also taken out at least 3 different life insurance policies, totaling about $1 million.
It's a large sum of money.
Is a large sum of money and a large motive for someone if they had access to that settlement.
But could detectives physically link him to the murder? Eugene adamantly denied he killed Sherese. Back at the crime scene, when detectives processed the gun found next to Sherese's body, they say they could not find any usable prints. Reporter Russ McQuaid says Eugene's DNA was all over it.
Well, Eugene said, I used to clean her gun for her. Of course my DNA is on that gun. And you look at that and you go, well, he's got a point there.
But what about the gun pouch? Why was it not with her on the night she was gunned down?
So her gun pouch, which she would holster her firearm at the house, but yet she was killed with her firearm.
Her firearm and her pouch should have always been together. Her pouch was left at home.
Family members say that Sherese rarely took her gun out while walking the dogs because she knew her dogs would protect her if she ever ran into trouble.
Either she leaves that gun at home and that gun makes its way down to the banks of the White River, or totally out of character for her, she carried that gun without its pouch on her person as she walked her dogs.
When police interview Eugene about how the gun discharged, he says the dogs did it, suggesting a theory that the dogs jumped on her, triggering the gun to go off.
The police looked at that theory. They tried to determine where would this gun have been in, how easy is it to trip this gun off, and a dog jumping in a shirt pocket. I mean, there are certain things that just defy, credulity.
Eugene's theory of what went down is that your niece, Sherese, accidentally shot herself.
Yeah, I heard that.
That the dogs may have jumped up on her and somehow pulled the trigger.
Anybody in their right mind wouldn't think that. Now you don't just shoot yourself or the dogs knocked her down. No.
Cops gave Eugene a polygraph test, but his results came back inconclusive.
Were there any other suspects at the time, or did the investigation kept leading back to him?
The investigation keeps leading back to Eugene. If you go with motive, if you go with familiarity, if this was the direction that led state police to eventually put charges onto Eugene.
Eventually, Eugene is charged with the murder of his wife. But this was no cut and dry case. A month and a half before the trial was slated to begin, all charges were dropped after cell phone evidence failed to place him at the scene.
We know we charged the right person, but we just need that little bit more information.
But Sherese's family believes those cell phone records do reveal some activity that could be considered suspect.
Now we know that on December 11th and December 12th, so the day before Sherese was killed and the day of her killing, Eugene deleted 9 phone calls from his cell phone.
Between that time frame, the day before, the day of, I wouldn't be thinking about deleting anything. The main thing I'd be thinking about, what happened to my wife?
And 2 months after the murder, cops give Eugene's girlfriend a polygraph test, which she failed. But with no evidence tying her to the murder, police cannot charge her, nor is she considered a suspect. It's now been 4 years, and Sherese's family honors her memory at a prayer vigil on the anniversary of her death. But cops are frustrated. They are at a standstill on the case.
You spent almost 2 years investigating Eugene Bingham. Do you feel like you got the right guy?
I feel the evidence pointed in the same direction, no matter how we turned it or how we looked at it.
Cops still consider Eugene a suspect in the murder of his wife, but they do not have evidence to charge him with the crime. We reached out to Eugene's lawyer for comment, but several calls were unreturned. And with no arrest, the family is devastated that justice still eludes their beloved Sherese.
There's a good chance that Eugene is watching this right now. What's your message to him?
You reap what you sow. Because everything comes about in full circle. Every time you turn, you hear a laughter, you'll see my niece. You look over your shoulder, you think about her. As a woman you slept with for 28 years, she didn't just go away. She might not be here, but she's always gonna be in your spirit. That's all I can say to him. That's all.